Immanuel Kant was born on April 22, 1724, in Königsberg, Prussia, a city he would never leave, yet from which he would change the entire world of philosophy. While Montesquieu traveled across Europe observing governments, and Rousseau wandered from city to city challenging civilization itself, Kant remained in his hometown, walking the same streets with such regularity that locals allegedly set their clocks by his daily walks. This might seem paradoxical. The man who revolutionized philosophy barely traveled beyond his birthplace. But Kant's revolution happened not through observation of the world, but through pure thought, through systematic analysis of the foundations of knowledge, morality, and political legitimacy. Kant came from modest circumstances. His father was a harness maker, his mother deeply religious in the pietist tradition that emphasized personal faith and moral discipline. This early exposure to rigorous ethical standards would profoundly influence his later philosophy, though he would ground morality in reason rather than religious faith. He studied at the University of Königsberg, becoming a private tutor for several years, before finally securing a position at the university in 1755. For the next 46 years, Kant would teach and write, producing some of the most difficult and influential works in the history of philosophy. But Kant's early career was relatively quiet. He wrote on various topics, natural science, metaphysics, aesthetics, without achieving major recognition. Then, in 1781, at age 57, he published The Critique of Pure Reason, a massive, dense, revolutionary work that attempted to resolve fundamental questions about what humans can know and how knowledge is possible. This was followed by the Critique of Practical Reason in 1788, which addressed morality, and the Critique of Judgment in 1790, which dealt with aesthetics and teleology.
Together, these three critiques demolished and rebuilt entire domains of philosophy. Kant was doing for philosophy what Copernicus had done for astronomy, fundamentally reorienting how we think about the relationship between mind and world. But while the critiques established Kant's philosophical reputation, our focus today is on works more directly relevant to political philosophy. In 1784, he published an answer to the question, "What is Enlightenment?" a concise, powerful statement of the Enlightenment's mission. In 1785, the groundwork for the metaphysics of morals laid out his ethical theory and the famous categorical imperative. In 1795, Perpetual Peace presented his vision for international relations. And in 1797, the metaphysics of morals systematically applied his ethical theory to both law and virtue. Kant lived through tumultuous times. He witnessed the American Revolution and its establishment of constitutional government. He watched the French Revolution begin with hope for rational reform, then descend into the terror that would kill tens of thousands. These events shaped his thinking about how Enlightenment ideals should be implemented, carefully, constitutionally, through reform rather than violent upheaval. Unlike Rousseau, who challenged civilization itself, Kant was thoroughly a figure of the Enlightenment establishment. He was a professor, respected, eventually famous. His life was extraordinarily regular and disciplined, teaching, writing, his famous daily walks, dinner parties where he engaged in philosophical conversation. He never married, dedicating himself entirely to intellectual work. Yet, this seemingly conventional professor in a provincial city produced ideas more radical in their implications than those of more obviously rebellious thinkers. Kant's revolution was quiet but total. He didn't just describe a different political system. He transformed the very foundation on which political philosophy rests, shifting it from questions of power and structure to questions of moral legitimacy and human dignity.
His fundamental project was this: in a world where religious authority was declining, where Enlightenment reason was challenging tradition, where revolutions were overturning old political orders,
What could serve as the foundation for morality, law, and political legitimacy? What grounds obligation when divine command and ancient custom no longer compel assent? Kant's answer: human reason itself, operating autonomously according to principles it discovers within its own nature. This was revolutionary. Morality doesn't come from God, custom, sentiment, or consequences. It comes from reason, recognizing what it must do to be consistent with itself. And political order must be structured to respect this rational autonomy that defines human dignity.